Though the sun is not here, the coffee is ready. That's good. Well, good morning. If you're new here, my name's Thomas Howell, and I like books, and I like coffee. And I'm going to share with you the 10 books I want to read before I pass from this world. Got a little frog in my throat. Ugh, probably shouldn't be drinking coffee. Should be drinking tea. You know, a lot of people have a TBR list, you know, a to be read list, and it's just hundreds and hundreds of books. And I don't do that. I like just having a simple 10 books on a list. Keep it simple. If you've watched some of my videos, you'd know that I have primarily been reading Wheel of Time. That's a 14-book series, and it's a long one. It's a crunchy, dense series, and I haven't really strayed far away from it. But now that I'm kind of at the end of the tunnel here, it's going to be nice to read books that aren't within a series. A lot of these books in this 10-book list they're all just standalone, self-contained books, and I'm excited for that. We're going to start off with Lord of the Rings. If you didn't know, it is actually just one book separated into three volumes. So I've got each of the volumes here: Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King. I have not read the books, but I have watched the films, and my gosh, some of the best. Amazing. And by the way, the only way to watch Lord of the Rings is the extended edition versions. So back in 2020, I started Lord of the Rings, and I got maybe halfway through. I just couldn't do it. Yeah, throw hate in the comments, but I couldn't do it. I didn't have the mental capacity or the appreciation for J.R. Tolkien's writing style. And now that I've been reading Wheel of Time, I feel like I'm gonna just breeze through this and have a whole new perspective and love for fantasy when approaching Lord of the Rings. So yeah, you know, after Wheel of Time, maybe I'll give this a shot. I don't know. So, by the way, this list, I'm not going to read it in order. As in, like, I'm not going to approach Lord of the Rings first and then the next book and the next book. I like to read books when I'm in the mood for them. You know, if I'm in the mood for a spooky book, I'll read a spooky book. Because right now I'm reading Pet Sematary for like Halloween. But if I'm in the mood for like a winter book or an adventure book or a fantasy book, then I'm going to dive into that. So when approaching this 10 books list, throughout my life, hey, if I'm in the mood for Lord of the Rings, I'll dive into that. If I'm in the mood for this, I'll dive into that. I don't like to rush through my reading. I like to take my time and enjoy each book that I'm reading. And I also like to read one book at a time. I don't like to book hop. So, yeah, just a little preface. But anyways, Lord of the Rings. It by Stephen King. The crazy thing is I don't know too much about this book. I just know it is an absolute classic. You've got the movies. You've got Steve Martin or John Candy or whoever plays the clown in the old one, and then you got the new one, Skarsgård. I just know it is a coming-of-age story. Children a scary clown, and it's such a deep book where you see these characters grow up apparently into adults where they face this fear. I've never been a fan of horror and scary books, but lately I've jumped into the realm of Stephen King, and it is absolutely one of the books that I wanna read. Okay, this one is not a classic, but it may be a classic. Uh, Dungeon Crawler Carl. My wife is reading this right now, and I've never seen her smile so much at a book and laugh almost every other minute. And she's just telling me some of the outlandish things that are happening in this book. I just hear it is just dumb fun. It's about, I guess, an alien invasion, and those of who survive are thrown into this 18-level dungeon. And it's kind of like, it's very meta. You know, you've got level up systems, you've got classes, Carl, the main character, and his cat, his ex-girlfriend's cat, dive into these dungeons, and they level up, and they pick classes and find items, and it's very Dungeons and Dragons-esque. It's a book that is not nearly as deep as Lord of the Rings or It. It's kind of a turn your brain off book, and just have fun. And if I love it as much as my wife is loving it, this may be a book that I would recommend to those who are kind of getting into reading. Maybe they want to dive into fantasy books. I would maybe recommend this. Welcome to Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. A friend of mine who I play Magic the Gathering with, he just raves about this book. He has a dinosaur Magic deck, and every time he plays it, I'm just like, wow. He is a massive Jurassic Park fan. He's got all the Jurassic Park cards. Yeah, this was a book before the movies, and it is completely different from the movies. I hear it is just a gruesome, horrific book. I've watched the films growing up as a kid, and, you know, as an adult, I haven't really, you know, gone back to watch those again, so I think I'll definitely read the book before I ever dive into the films again. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know much about this book, but I just know it's fun and kind of like Dungeon Crawler Carl. Just exciting, adventurous. There's a YouTuber, goodness, I'm blanking on her last name. Murphy is her first name, I think. And she made a video on palate cleansers, or books that get you out of a reading slump. And Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was a part of that list. All right, let's read what this is about real quick. Seconds before Earth is demolished to make way for a galactic freeway, Arthur Dent is plucked off the planet by his friend Ford Prefect, a researcher for the revised edition of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, who, for the last 15 years, has been posing as an out-of-work actor. Together, this dynamic pair begin a journey through space aided by a galaxy full of fellow travelers. It seems like it doesn't take itself too seriously. Man, when did this book come out? 1979? Lonesome Dove. Now this is an oldie but a goldie. I discovered this book when I was, I guess, just diving into Stephen King, and apparently this is his favorite book of all time. I've heard amazing things about this. Like, this is a 5 out of 5 star book. It's a full-on just American Western epic. And it's essentially about two former Texas Rangers. and both of which are who are friends. One of which is kind of straight and narrow and by the book, doesn't drink. And then the other guy's a little more, you know, it's a drama and it's a tragedy. And apparently it just turns into a bigger tragedy. You follow these two friends through something, through a story, and you meet a lot of other people along the way. These people feel real and their stories feel real. It's a very human book. The Last Unicorn. I heard of this book through my favorite author, Patrick Rothfuss, the author of Name of the Wind, my favorite book of all time. And he said this is his favorite book. And I'm just thinking, oh, I think I'm going to read my favorite author's favorite book. My wife read this book, and thankfully she has not spoiled anything, but she's just said it's a sad book. The unicorn lived in a lilac wood, and she lived all alone. So she ventured out from the safety of the enchanted forest on a quest for others of her kind. That's all I'll say. It sounds very simple. It sounds beautiful, poetic. Dune by Frank Herbert. I've watched the recent Dune films, Part 1 and Part 2 by Denis Villeneuve, and I think those two films, Part 1 and Part 2, are the films for sci-fi, whereas Lord of the Rings, the films for fantasy. Like, I think those two worlds are completely separate from ours, yet completely human and relatable. And I want to read Dune because, well, I've watched the films, but I've just heard it's so much deeper than just sci-fi. You know, sci-fi is almost kind of just the backdrop, whereas this is very much a human tale about the historical trends repeating itself, about, you know, false leaders, false prophets, different religions and sects, how information is manipulated and how different powers can manipulate one another. It's a very dense book, and from what I've heard, it's a classic. If you are a returning viewer or a subscriber, you will know I read Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I did not like that book. I made a video on it. You can go find it. I just felt like it was very surface level and very YA, young adult. And thankfully, I didn't get a lot of hate or backlash. I got a lot of amazing back and forth comments and suggestions. And a lot of people were saying, hey, try the Stormlight Archive. That may be up your alley. So yeah, Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I've heard this book is slow, which I love. I hear not a lot happens. I hear you are stuck with a lot of the characters and in their heads, and I love that. I love slow, naturally paced storytelling. And again, this is a 5-book series, and the 5th book is coming out this December. I'm in the middle of Wheel of Time still, so I don't know if I'm gonna dive into this right away because I kind of want to just read self-contained books after a 14-book series. He wrote this, I think, in the middle of writing Wheel of Time, Sanderson. So I'm excited to read Sanderson's versions of Wheel of Time because that's where I'm at. I'm at book 12, 13, 14. So I'm excited to read his take on Wheel of Time. Knowing that, diving into this will be very interesting because, you know, you kind of see that growth of Sanderson throughout the Wheel of Time books and Way of Kings. And, you know, everyone praises him for his magic systems and world building. And I hear it's an epic. It's high fantasy. You've got this vast magic system with, I guess, storms, or these, oh gosh, what is it? Like a storm shard? Like a sword that does something? Please don't hate me. Yeah, Wave Kings. Why not? All right, last but not least, another Stephen King book, The Stand. So I do a lot of research when going into, a book or a series, spoiler-free research. And I was looking up kind of what books should I read of Stephen King's. And The Stand was high up there on everyone's list. It's his longest book, and this is the complete and uncut edition, so it's even longer than the original. I love this concept. It is an adventure, apocalyptic book. Essentially, it's about a super flu that wipes out 99% of the world's population, and people are looking for a leader. And there's two leaders that rise to the occasion. And I believe one of them is Randall Flagg, the nefarious Dark Man. I think he is actually in the Dark Tower series. That's cool. And then you got Mother Abigail, 108-year-old woman. So she wants peace, and Randall Flagg is, he likes little violence and chaos. It's funny, I think apocalyptic books are the most cozy. You're just sitting in your living room or your book nook or in your bed reading this scary, apocalyptic, chaotic book, yet it just seems so cozy. I don't know how to say it. And there it is, the 10 books I want to read before I die. I don't know when I'm going to start reading these books, when I'll dive into them, but I'm going to enjoy the journey and take my time with them. And I'll probably do book reviews on each of those. But right now I'm in the middle of Pet Sematary, and then I'll probably dive into Salem's Lot and finish with Wheel of Time. And who knows when that'll be. One thing about my channel, I will never ask of you to like or subscribe. I don't believe in that trend. I don't like it. What I do want is for you to comment. I want to talk to you about books. I love talking about books. No matter where I'm at. If I'm in the Lego aisle at Target, if I'm at a drive-thru, if I'm buying a coffee, I may just ask that person, hey, what are you reading? What's on your nightstand? I love talking about books. So tell me, what books do you want to read in your lifetime? What books excite you, or books that have been on your radar? I want to hear all about it. So, thank you for hanging out and hearing me talk about some of the books that I want to read. Till next time.